Okay, hello, and welcome back to another coffee conversation. We are so excited to be back with you guys again today.
Yay, I'm excited to be here as well. I love our current conversations that we've been having, so it all makes me happy.
Yes. Let us know in the chat where you're watching from, what you're drinking today. I just have water in my good cup of Reiki cup because it is 3 p.m. for me. And if I had coffee right now, I would be up until 1 o'clock in the morning. And we don't need to do that. So water for me today. But let us know in the chat what you are watching from, what you are drinking, and where you are watching from.
I love it. Yeah, I was drinking out of my good Reiki cup earlier today. Been hitting the coffee this week a little bit much. So I'm also drinking water right now, though I would love to be sipping on a chai tea latte like our friend over in Oklahoma.
Chai tea.
What's your favorite chai? Like, I know this is like, I'm a huge connoisseur of chai, if you will. And I want to know if you have a favorite brand. Like my favorite brand that I've ever tried that's not that I make is Tipu's chai out of Missoula, Montana. And it is spicy, not sweet. What's your favorite kind? And I love making yogi tea as well, which is very similar to chai tea. Have you ever had that yogi tea?
Yes, I think I have. I want to say I have. I don't have a favorite brand. I have up in Alaska, there's a coffee shop that makes the best chai I've ever had. And every time I go, I mean to ask them what brand they use. And every time I go, I forget to ask. So,
I started drinking chai in Alaska when I was there studying at the birth center, Reiki and birth and all of those things. And the reason why I was drinking chai is because the coffee was so bad. I came from Portland, Oregon, which is like a coffee, very, very coffee oriented city. And when I got up to Alaska, the coffee was so bad, I switched to chai and they would put the shot of espresso in my chai. Mm-hmm. And I started drinking dirty chais because their coffee was really bad in Alaska. And that was and then I just got hooked. I love dirty chais.
Yeah, they've come up quite a bit. I feel like Palmer in Alaska has the best coffee that I've found so far. It's definitely questionable in some places, but there's this one coffee shop up in Palmer, Milk and Honey, that best mocha I have ever had in my entire life. And so like 3 or 4 times a week, I will go to this coffee shop.
I love it. And it's part of it's like taking that time and knowing that you're worth spending a little extra money on some really good coffee every once in a while. There's nothing wrong with that. This week I went to one of my favorite coffee shops in Bozeman and got a dirty turmeric latte. And it is my favorite. And that one cup is like $8 for a 12 ounce. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. But I love it. And it makes me feel good. So every once in a while, I splurge.
Yes. I have a friend who celebrates on October 13th. Apparently this is a thing.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know this was a thing. The Treat Yourself Day. Do you know about this?
No. What is the Treat Yourself Day?
So apparently this is a thing that I just didn't know about, but apparently October 13th is Treat Yourself Day, where you splurge on something and it has to be for yourself. You can't buy something for someone else. It's like something that you buy yourself that you wouldn't usually buy. And this year, of course, the 13th is on a Friday. And so I was very excited about this, but I didn't know it was a thing.
I love that. That's hilarious. No, I didn't know about that. So everyone, our word of wisdom for the early part of our show is
treat yourself.
Go treat yourself. You're worthy of splurging on something just for you because you can. I love it. So today we're going to be exploring this beautiful topic of how to stop limiting your Reiki business dreams. Because y'all, I know that you've been called to Reiki. I know that you have Reiki dreams, and sometimes we need to voice those and really start exploring the gap between where we are now and where we want to be, and stop pushing that dream farther and farther and distancing ourselves from it. And so I want to explore all of these different angles around our business dreams, what we want to create, manifest in our lives, and how we're holding ourselves back from that. And how can we unsubscribe to those limiting beliefs and patterns?
And I think it's such an important conversation to have, especially as spiritual practitioners, because there is a very common thought that you can't have a career or you can't support yourself if you are running a spiritual business. And, I especially find this in female spiritual entrepreneurs as well. There's almost this idea that if we don't have another source of income, whether that's a full-time job or our spouse or our partner or whatever it might be, if we don't have another source of income, then we can't do this thing because it's not, the responsible thing to do, or it's selfish, or what if people think we're crazy, or, all of these stories that we tell ourselves about these dreams that we have and about our ability to make healing a career. And I think it's, like you said, there are so many angles that we could approach the conversation from, but I think it's so important to start by, just like you said, letting yourself say those dreams out loud. Of if they're always just up in your head and you can't even bring yourself to write them down or share them with somebody, they're never going to come into manifestation. Because if you think about it, our words are that first level of manifestation. Our words are really the first place where energy comes into the physical world in a way that other people can experience, and that's really tangible. And so if you haven't yet, get out a journal, put it in the comments, something, go tell a friend, or just write it down what your Reiki dreams are, even if your mind is telling you that it's crazy, it's irresponsible, it's selfish, because we're going to cover all of that. But we can't work through what's limiting us until we realize how far we want to go and see where we're holding ourselves back in the first place. And so starting there, of even just looking at, what do you want? If you could wave a magic wand, if there were no limits, if money wasn't an issue, if time wasn't an issue, if whatever, if the people in your life telling you can't do it weren't a thing, if you could do whatever you wanted, you could wave a magic wand, what would your Reiki dreams be? Do you want to run a business? Do you want to have a healing center? Do you want to teach? Do you want to sell Reiki infused spiritual art? Like, what is your dream and how do you want that to look? Because what we can do from there is, once we have this vision, once we have this understanding of where you want to go, we can look at what steps are we missing to get you there in the first place.
Yeah. And you know what, it helps me self-reflect on how far I've come, because when I first started my Reiki business in Bozeman, Montana, my brick and mortar business, I really, at the very beginning, I was like, I just want to break even from my overhead cost of what the studio space is, and to cover the cost of the childcare, because this is my sanity line. This is what is going to help me heal myself, is by starting meditation classes and Reiki sessions and Reiki circles and those types of things. So I had really low expectations of where I wanted to begin my Reiki business, because it was for me. And that was an okay place to start. And so even if your dreams feel small or not like over the top, like that's okay. Because once you have that achievable, like I got there pretty quick, and I was really fortunate that never in my business, like a lot of people say, you don't usually have a profit in the first 2 years. I really knew how hard I would be willing to work just to break even and cover all of my costs. And I did that every single month. So I was never in a shortfall income-wise in my Reiki business. And I've been grateful for that. So once I was able to start my business and like consistently cover all of my costs and do this for me, then I was able to go, okay, can I make as much money as if I was working a 20-hour week part-time job? Right. So that was the next step. Okay. If I was working $20 an hour at like a billing company, because that's where I was coming out of. It was like working in the insurance industry and the billing industry and like all of these things to support other companies grow. I was like, okay, I can do this. Okay. That's what, $2,000 a month. Okay. My goal now is to make $2,000 a month. And then that came along pretty easy too. And so I was taking these baby steps, and it really wasn't until I had a coach, when I had a mentor, when I had business education, where people were asking me, it wasn't coming from just me. They were asking me, okay, make that bigger. You can do more than that. Let's stretch that outside your comfort zone even more. What would that look like if it was double? Okay, now triple it. And that stretching of my idea of what my Reiki dreams could be was really what helped slingshot me forward. I wasn't just playing small anymore to be in survival mode. It was, no, I can make $7,000 a month, or I can have 2 paying apprentices, or whatever the piece of the puzzle was at the time. And that mentorship, that having someone to look up to say, how does this sound? And they say, go bigger, help me go bigger and create bigger and do more. And even before COVID hit, going, I want to bring this online. I want to be able to teach all of these things to Reiki practitioners worldwide so that they can build their career. Had I not had a mentor in that whole time, I don't know if I would have been comfortable with that. Right. So recognizing where you're at right now and say it's okay to be right where I am right now, and also go, I want more. I want this desired reality, and I'm worthy of that feeling, that inkling, that knowingness that it's a possibility in my future.
And there are so many points in what you just said that I want to touch on. And I think starting with that idea of it's okay to start small and work your way up. One of the things that I see the most often in Reiki practitioners who are looking to turn their practice into a business is this idea that they have to go big or go home. You know, if they don't quit their full-time job and immediately open a practice, they're doing it wrong. If you don't have 10 to 15 clients a week, then you're just not destined to be a business owner, et cetera, et cetera. All of these really big beliefs that we have. But what I find really interesting is when you look at why we do it that way. And I was actually talking with our shamanic Reiki students about this today in class, is our brains function best when they're in a state of duality, when it's all or nothing, yes or no, black or white. And so our brain feels most comfortable either not having a business or having the most successful Reiki business that was ever on the planet. And it's interesting watching that space of that's not how it's going to work. You have to be willing to take those leaps of faith and to start small, not because you're playing it small, not because you're not worth it, not because it's not possible, but because when we have those dreams that maybe feel so unattainable, and we say that we're supposed to be achieving those right now, what we're actually doing is self-sabotaging. We're setting these goals with our spiritual self, right? Our intuition is calling us toward being a business owner, having a successful healing center, whatever it might be. Our intuition is showing us what's possible down the line. And our brain is saying, but that should be happening now. And so we're taking this gift that our intuition has given us of this insight of where we want to go and what we're supposed to be doing. And we're trying to take it out before it's ready. It's like when you bake a cake and you take it out and the center is still raw. Like you have to let it sit and bake for a while. And it doesn't mean that, if you take it out early, you just can't bake a cake, you failed, you're not meant to eat this cake, whatever. It's just you didn't wait long enough. You didn't let it bake, you didn't let it process. And I think that's a great metaphor to bring in when we're talking about a business is it's okay to start small. It's okay to maybe not start small. It's okay to start where you are and let yourself be there, because there's no right way to do a Reiki business. It's going to look different for everybody. Some people might be able to quit their full-time job and just hop straight into it, and that's fantastic. Some people might take 5 hours in the afternoon on Thursdays and go to their Reiki center, whatever it might be. It's okay. And when we can step into that space of giving ourselves permission, that's when things can start to become a little more easeful. And that's why having a mentor or having a coach can be so effective and impactful, is because we have such a hard time giving ourselves that permission. But if we have someone else who is standing outside of us and looking at us and saying, no, you can do more, you can go bigger, it's okay, that is so powerful. And one of the things that I love about that is when we get into this conversation, inevitably there's going to be that conversation about money and the financial side of things, right? And especially because as business owners, we do tend to base a lot of our goals around our income level and what that looks like. And I remember I had a mentor when I was first working on all of my budgeting and financial things. She asked me, what's the significance of that income level that you're stuck at? What is the significance of this financial bracket that you have placed yourself in? So for example, I don't remember what the actual number was, but she was saying, like, for example, if you feel like you can only make $3,000 a month and you get stressed or you feel like it's unattainable or unachievable or whatever to make $4,000 a month, what's significant about that? Was there someone in your life who made $4,000 a month that people said was a snob, or that they were like, like whatever it is, like, where's the story around that particular number? And that goes for money, that goes for number of clients, that goes for the number of hours you work. Anytime we get numbers involved and we get stuck in using those as our goals, but then they become glass ceilings instead of something to attain, they become a limiting factor. Asking yourself, why that number? Why is that where we stopped? What's significant about that? And what does our brain think it would say about us if we went beyond that? If we did do more, if we did double, triple, etc., that goal that we have? Because a lot of times what happens when we have those goals and we go to double them, we go to triple them, and we have someone giving us the permission to be able to do that, is it's so inspiring. And then you go to do it and you feel scared, or you feel stressed, or you feel unworthy. And it's those feelings that we're talking about when we're saying that you need to not limit your Reiki dreams. Did I freeze, or is it Christine?
Yeah, I'm not sure which one of us it is.
I don't know which one of us is frozen.
Yeah, but I agree. Like, I think there's a lot, like right before you said glass ceilings, I'm like, yes, these are all glass ceilings. I think it must be me.
I think it is.
Yeah, I'll make sure that you are also a co-host so that if I pop off, it'll be okay.
But yeah, it's that idea of we get stressed and we get scared and all of these things. And that's what we're talking about when we're saying limiting your Reiki business. Is it's not, there is the physical side of, like, have you set up an LLC? Do you budget? Do you do all these things? But at the root of it, it's those limiting factors in yourself, those subconscious ways that you are holding yourself back because 3,000 is an acceptable level of income, but 4,000 is too much, or whatever it is. It's those little things that have such a powerful impact. And I had a friend explain how she tells others about this the other day, and I thought it was such a beautiful example. She was talking about how, our soul, our energy is the thing that's going to stay with us forever, right? Like everything else in our life will change. Our job, our family, our money, our whatever, everything else is going to change. The only thing that we truly have, even our body, is our soul, our energy, our wisdom within us. And she was saying, of course, that's why in your business, in your family life, in your relationships, in your whatever, you have to put your soul first and your energetic well-being first, because it is the one thing that is forever. It is the one thing that is going to be constant throughout all of these experiences, throughout every single decision you make in your business, throughout every single client that you see, throughout every time you earn income. Underlying all of that is your soul and is your energy. And so why would you prioritize anything other than your energetic soul level state around this thing? It makes no sense. Like, if you think about it that way, it's like, well, of course we need to look at our limiting beliefs. Of course we need to look at our energy. Of course we need to understand how we as an energetic being are approaching this business, because it's not about the business. It's not about the money. It's not about the clients. It's not about which building we're renting. It's about the work that we're doing and showing up authentically within ourselves. And so why would we stress about these little details ahead of looking at ourselves and looking at how we are interacting with our business and the energy of our business on a soul level?
Right. Yeah, I definitely feel like you have the energy of power coming forward with this divine inspiration. Like, the divine inspiration is there, but then we have this time lapse between that desired reality that we want to create right now and how we're shaming ourselves if it doesn't get created instantaneously. Like if I woke up tomorrow and had $500,000 in sales, I would freak out. Like I wouldn't know what to do first to be able to handle that level of students. Whereas as we grow, we learn more and we integrate more, and the people and the opportunities and the collaborations, they come forward to support you in your growth. So it's like when people say, well, I need to go get a $20,000 loan. And I'm like, wait, hold up. Why are we setting yourself up on a basis of a deep like chunk if you don't have the community yet to support paying that kind of debt off? Like I'm not a big anti don't get a business credit card. It's more of like, where are you at and why are you doing it? Because you're so attached to this reality that I'm trying to create needs to happen in the next 4 months versus it can happen in 2 years. It can happen in 5 years, and that's okay. And it's like, for me, like I thought this year was going to be the year that I write my book. I have the outline. I know what I want to write about. People have asked me for the book, and I don't have a book. And it's not the season. It's not the season in my life to write a book and to recognize where we're at and seeing ourselves. Like I was just doing a shamanic journey before I got on, and I was seeing myself as a plant in nature. No one's yelling at it to grow faster. Like, we don't do that because we know it's going to be in its nature to grow at its own pace and accept it for as it is. And some seasons we get 2 harvests of summer wheat. Sometimes if we're really lucky, we'll get 3 cuts. You know, here I am out in Montana where there's wheat fields everywhere, right? And sometimes there's only 1. And sometimes it's the season of abundance, and sometimes it's a season to prepare the soil, to get ready for the next big thing that's coming. And so it's like, yes, we want to recognize what our Reiki dreams are, and then take the pressure off of ourselves of hurry up and get there. Because I see time and time again, students who are trying to move from corporate into a full-time Reiki practice, and they quit their job and they're available 7 days a week, 8 hours a day, and it's not happening because they don't have the skill sets and the community and the branding and all of the things that take time to create to start bringing in those new clientele. So there are steps and processes where you can grow like an opening flower of like, here I am just a bud and I'm starting with 1 day a week. Here I am just as a bud and I'm doing a webinar or a free Reiki circle or something to just introduce yourself, your energy to your community, your audience. And then as is in timing, the flower will bloom. And so it's very much like, don't put pressure on yourself. And it's a reminder I have to tell myself all the time. I'm growing my company just the way it needs to, just the way it needs to be supported. And it doesn't need to be, I don't need to put that pressure on myself, because that pressure on myself is the limiting beliefs, right? And so where are you at? How does that resonate? Where are you at in your growth? Sometimes it's okay just to be the little plant in the planter box and you've just got a few leaves starting, and that's a beautiful place to be as well. And if you're a whole freaking rose bush with multifaceted companies, fan freaking tastic. You might be growing a whole row of rose bushes, and that's okay too.
Yeah. And I think it's such an interesting thing because we really do live in a culture right now where we are used to instant information, instant health, instant connection, instant whatever, whether it's on social media and TikTok where we're just constantly consuming content, or it's at the grocery store where we can just walk up to an aisle of meat and there it is. We can pick out whatever we want, or it's listening to this right now and literally hearing our voices as they're coming out of our mouths. We are in this space. I mean, even in the medical community with the capacity that we have now for pills and things like that, we live in a society that thrives on instant gratification, for lack of a better term. And in a lot of ways, that's a beautiful thing. And there have been so many advancements that allow us to have that. But what it also has done is it has made us impatient. And it has made us feel like we are unworthy or that we're doing it wrong if we don't get instant results or if it doesn't happen overnight. And then you tie in things like manifestation and law of attraction, and suddenly no longer are you doing it wrong, but you're wrong. You as a person are suddenly unworthy because you didn't have overnight success. You didn't go viral. Your first webinar only had 2 people on it, et cetera, et cetera. You are a failure because you aren't successful overnight. And it's this really interesting dichotomy of understanding that from a soul level, anything is possible, right? Like we could wake up tomorrow and have $1 million if that's what's aligned for us and if that's what's meant in this lifetime. We're not saying that it's impossible if it's aligned for you and if it's meant for you. What we are saying is that we need to release that expectation from the mind, because it's the expectation that keeps us going back and that keeps us feeling like we're a failure and that keeps us from allowing where we are now to be enough, wherever that is and whatever that looks like. Whether it is, like Christine said, having 5 Reiki buildings and 20 staff members and all the things, or it's doing a webinar on your night off and having 2 people show up. Both of those are incredibly valuable experiences for everyone involved. But we have to get to a place where we can give ourselves permission to step outside the box of instant gratification, to step outside this story that society tells us that if we don't go viral and, have 20,000 likes on our first reel, that we're not worthy. Like, we have to be able to step out of that and then step back into trust that exactly who we're meant to interact with is going to show up. The exact number of clients we're meant to have is going to happen. We will have enough money to do what we need to do, and we don't need to force it. And this is something that is so vital in your Reiki business, is as Reiki practitioners, when we're connected with the energy, when we're working with clients, we're so vocal about, just trust your intuition and get out of your own way and quiet the monkey mind and all of these things. We know these things. And then the word business gets involved. And suddenly all of that advice goes out the window because we're like, we have to be logical. We have to be responsible. We have to have a budget. We have to do the taxes. And suddenly it becomes this thing where it's like intuition doesn't get to play in the realm of business. And it's like, why? Where was the jump between let your intuition be your guide and I am $5 under my budget for this month? Like there's such a gap there. And so looking in yourself of where is that line for you? At what point did your mind decide that your intuition wasn't reliable enough to run your business? And I think that's a fascinating question to ask, because I can guarantee you your mind is not the one who led you to Reiki. I don't think I have ever met a person who was like, I just decided one day that Reiki was the most logical thing to do with my life. I have never met a person who has said that. It has always been like, I was just happened to be at an energy fair and I had a Reiki session, or I just woke up this is how it was for me. I woke up one day with the word Reiki in my head. I didn't know what it was. I had never done a session, and yet here we are. Your intuition has been guiding you to Reiki from the start. Why are you taking it away from your intuition and giving it back to your mind? This journey is something that your intuition put you on, that your intuition led you down. Why are you trying to take that power and that responsibility and that guidance away from your intuition and give it back to your mind? It doesn't make sense. But it's just because we've decided that a business has to be logical, that it has to be run by the mind, that it has to be this very structured thing. And it's like, no, our intuition is far more powerful than our mind to be able to guide us in our business, because of the fact that it's our intuition. It is that bridge between the spiritual understanding of we could wake up tomorrow and have $1 million and the human idea of we have to have our budget and we have to do the things. Your intuition is the gap between the two, because it knows who you are as a human. It knows the struggles. It knows what it's like to have to interact with a physical world, but it also is sourced in your soul, in that freedom, in the knowledge of what you are meant to experience, attain, and achieve in this lifetime. And it's going to help you get there, but you have to trust it. It can't do anything if you're stuck in the business has to be run by my mind. And, letting my intuition flow is all well and good when I'm actually connected to the Reiki. But to get to the place where I can connect to the Reiki, I have to have my mind run the show. That it's not. And it's so funny because we're trying to run our businesses based on logic, but even just, you can hear it, even just saying that out loud, it doesn't make sense. It's not logical the way that we're trying to run our business. And it's like, when we can do that, when we can bring in this awareness, it starts to kind of fall apart a little bit, because then we can look at, okay, let's take away those expectations. Let's take away what we've been told a business should look like. Let's take away the idea of instant gratification. Let's take away these markers that we have for ourselves of what a good Reiki practitioner looks like, or what a successful Reiki business looks like. Let's take that all away and come back to, what does your Reiki business look like? What does your successful practice look like? What does it look like for you now? And what do you want it to look like? What is your intuition guiding you to allow it to look like? And letting that be enough.
Yeah. It all comes back to stories. Our stories that we hold and hold dear create our reality. And there are stories that we tell ourselves about our business, whether it's from collective consciousness, our the way we were brought up, our religious institutions, our educational system, whatever. It's a story. It was a story that was created to hold us bound to that story. And when we can start recognize them as stories, then we can go, does this story serve me? Do I need to unravel why this story exists so that I can heal from it and let it go? And then there's stories that you can create from your intuition space to help you move forward. For example, I absolutely loved, one of my mentors was coaching me on how to create a simple statement, a motto, if you will, that would create a story of success. So, for example, mine was, the more I self-care, the more abundance flows into my life. Period. If that was my story, if that's what I absolutely truly believed, without any kind of attachment to it, because right now everyone's logical mind was like, no, it doesn't work that way. Screw that. It doesn't work that way. I don't believe it. Can't happen. But if the individual who is learning how to create new stories, the more I self-care, the more abundance will flow into my life. If that is my truth, and there isn't anything getting in the way of me believing that truth, it will be created in my reality. And so I love helping students cross over from, here's all the stories I was brought up with, here's all the stories society is giving me that are telling me that I have to use my logical mind for my business, to, what if this was a different reality I'm creating? That the more I self-care, the more abundance I have. And letting them see that whatever we believe we create, whatever we hold closest to us will create, whether they're limiting beliefs or whether they're possibility statements like this one, right? And so what is coming up when you think about business, because the term business in and of itself sounds so freaking heavy to most spiritual people. Like, oh my God, I want to do that. That sounds like a lot of work. Like, I don't think I'm cut out for that. I didn't go to business school. Like, there's so many stories right there with that term. And I think I sent out a recent email that basically said, this isn't my work, it's my pleasure. Right? And if that is my belief, if I keep showing up, supporting my community because it's my pleasure, this is what I enjoy doing. And my belief is, the more I show up in my pleasure, the more money comes to me. Look at how then I've made my business into fun and play. Then I've made my business into something I get excited about. Then I go, guess what? I get to write an email today. Guess what? I get to go do a live today. Guess what? Because it's my pleasure. So how do we change the mind to get on board with, it's not hard. It's not hard work, right? And there's pieces of it that might be, I don't know. I think all of it can transform. That's the thing, like, I'm like working through it in my mind. I'm like, even the money stuff, even the time when you have have to look through your QuickBooks or your bank accounts and like figure out what your profit was for that month or whatever it is. What if you created ceremony and ritual and had a money date and you lit a candle and you made it the most spiritual part of your week was looking at your money and honoring the money and giving gratitude for the money? Like, there's so many ways we can bend what society has taught us into making it my pleasure, my joy, my fun, and intuitive, right? So if I sit down for a money date and I have a candle lit and I've got my sage going and I'm reading my gratitude cards and I'm drawing an oracle card and I'm there fully present with my bank account, loving on it and being fully aware of what it actually is, what would that do to your connection with your money, connection with the business, connection with your business bank accounts, right? Like, we can transform those if we allow ourselves to explore something outside of our comfort zone. We've never been shown how to have fun with money, right? So how can we do that? And I'm not just saying spending it frivolously on the things that we desire, like the materialistic things. I'm going, how can we energetically understand that we can love on it, we can give appreciation for it, and then it's going to flow into our lives easier because there's no hardness around it.
Yeah. And I love what you're talking about with the story aspect of it, because I know there are people listening who are thinking that's great, but it doesn't work that way. Like, if just because I'm thinking to myself, the more I self-care, the more abundance flows in, doesn't mean that's going to happen. But it's about thinking about what are the stories that we tell ourselves at the end of the day. They're the things that we picked up about how the world functions from our childhood, right? They're the structures that created the limits of our subconscious mind, essentially, when we were growing up. And what forms those structures is what we're taught by our experiences, by our parents, by our peers, by our guardians, by whoever that we're interacting with in those early years. And then, of course, continuing on after, when a lot of times those patterns and thoughts and beliefs that were taught as a child are reinforced. Because what's happening is that as children, we are given other people's opinions that we are taught to take on as fact. And nobody phrases it that way, right? We always talk about how we have these limiting beliefs and we have these stories, and you can just switch the story, and we get stuck in thinking, but it doesn't work that way. And it's like, no, that's because you're thinking that this story you have in your head is a fact when it's really just someone else's opinion. It's someone else's opinion about how they think life works that they gave to you because they thought that giving you that opinion and having you share that opinion would be the best way to have you survive or be successful or whatever it might be. Whatever their motivation was, it was their opinion, their perspective of how life worked that they gave to you as a child, and that you then took on as just a statement of fact about how reality works. And it wasn't, because the thing is, reality is completely subjective, right? We all know this because we work with energy. You know what I mean? Like, there is no one objective perspective about how money can or cannot flow into your life. It is different for every single person, not just based on things like, race and socioeconomic status and all of these physical things, but on an energetic level, how we're interacting with money, what we're allowing ourselves to receive, what we feel worthy enough to have. All of these things are impacting how money is flowing into our life, because like we said earlier, that energy, our soul, is underlying everything. And if our energy is saying that we're not worthy, that we can't have it, that it's not going to work, then guess what? We're not worthy, we're not going to have it, and it's not going to work. Not because those things are true objectively, not because they're facts, but because they are our opinions. And the universe wants to prove us right. That is literally the universe's favorite thing to do, is support us in our opinions, even if our opinions are not the most beneficial opinions we could have. The universe is just constantly saying yes to you because it is supporting you. And it knows that the best way to get you to learn is to let you play out those beliefs, is to let you see how far can you go if you're limiting yourself. Because you're going to get to the point where you realize, you know what, I actually can't go that far. I have to let these things go. I have to do something different if I want to be successful. And when you can realize that those stories you're telling yourself are just opinions, it becomes so much easier to be like, well, why am I keeping my parents' opinions of money? I don't want those. That's not how I want to view money. I don't want to live in a world where I have to work 70 hours a week and barely get by. And it becomes this thing of, what world do you want to live in? And this is, I think, one of the most powerful questions you can ask yourself when you're looking at really taking that leap into starting something new, but especially starting a business, is twofold: of what world do you want to live in? Like Christine said, if you were a completely blank slate, if there were no stories, no rules, you had never been taught anything in your life, what would you want to believe about money? What would you want to believe about success? What would you want to believe about starting a business? And then on the flip side of it, asking yourself, what are you willing to work for in the name of making that world your reality? What are you willing to do to bring that forward? Because you, on a soul level, on an intuitive level, are going to be willing to work really hard at some things that someone else wouldn't want to. Like, you might be the person who wants to put in 70 hours a week into your business because you love it so much. And that doesn't feel like a struggle. It feels like a passion. And that's the question you have to ask yourself: of what things that other people would identify as a struggle are you willing to be passionate about for the sake of making this world, making this potential into a reality? Because what you're doing when you do that is you're giving yourself the permission to dream, but you're also giving yourself the structure to know what you're going to do, what action steps you're going to take to make those dreams happen in a physical way. And it's going to keep you in that state of balance, that balance between knowing what you're capable of on a spiritual level and knowing what you're capable of on a human level.
Right. Well, and I love that gap space where the hard work is happening. That's where I love the idea of, like, we're having a boot camp, because it is hard work to release and shred and let go of and burn and rise like a phoenix from all of those limiting beliefs that we've been given. Right. It takes time. And I'm not saying that it's like run a marathon. I mean, like, you have to deeply explore what you were given and why you're holding on to it, and doing the spiritual work to heal it. And so if that's journaling, if that's, making audio recordings for yourself, like, there's a lot of different ways to go about releasing these limiting beliefs. And in our Reiki Business Bootcamp, we're going to be covering a lot of that. And it's not always easy to heal those pieces and really recreate your belief system. And that's what we're talking about. Like, it's not always about how many Canva templates you can build, or how many, like, there's people who get wrapped up in the work, quote unquote, the work of how much they can actually produce and get done, and how many emails can they write, and how many things that they can get done. And yet they're so energetically out of balance because they still are holding on these limiting beliefs of, the money will come to me if I work really hard. I'm only worthy of the money if I work really hard, and until the point of burnout. That's the only time money can possibly come to me. And so they work. And there's an easier way to do it. But it all comes down to our belief system. And in that belief system, as we start releasing these limiting beliefs, there's going to be things like, I'm really curious about how to create easy and flowing and pieces that I can recycle. And so we're going to go, I get to learn how to use Canva. I get to learn how to do a live in the most easiest way. I get to do these things that now I'm excited about, because I know the skill set is going to help me move forward with my goals, rather than it feeling like a burden and a have to. Right. And that's huge, shifting from the have tos, I shoulds, to I get to, I want to, this is enjoyable. And I get to bring in my creative passion and flavor to whatever I create. And that's where we want to bring people. There's so many Reiki students and clients I've had over the years where they have the millions of ideas. Let me know if you're one of those people who have like the million ideas of all of these beautiful things. And so it's really easy to tap into the bigger picture and to the desired reality and to what they want to create and manifest in their lives, but they're not taking any action because they're not grounded. And so I love kind of energetically picking up on which element not necessarily your astrology, but which element do you hold on to the most, like in your energetic system? Are you a airy person with all of these ideas? Are you the person who is very intuitive and feeling and emotional and the empath, and they just flow like water? And so they're really good at connecting soul to soul with people, but the whole tangible, like put it in the ground and create the details, not so much. Or are you the fire that you get really passionate, you create something, and then when it doesn't work in like 0.5 seconds, you burn it to the ground and you start again? Like, so understanding the temperaments of people can really help you identify, this is my strong suit, this is what I really excel at, this is how I can apply it to my business, and how can I balance out these other areas so that even if I'm a water-based person, that flowy, intuitive empath connects soul to soul real easily, how can I bring some fire into that to do alive, right? Like, so there's this balance in our energy that we can bring forward that helps us kind of mind the gap to have that energetic awareness of ourselves.
Yeah. And that's really what we're bringing the Reiki Business Bootcamp forward for, is this idea that we can take spiritual action and we can take human action, and both are required to create that success, to bring those dreams into reality. And in order to do that, it is hard work, right? It's simple, but it's not easy. And we recognize that, we understand that, because we've been there, we've done the work, we've tested the things, we've tried so many different ways of moving forward, and we've put together all of the things that have worked, that have created success, that have allowed us to welcome in abundance, et cetera, into this program, in a space where not only do you get the tools and the techniques, but you also get that mentorship, that coach, that accountability buddy, the community that you need to be able to ask questions, to be able to try things out, to be able to have someone to say, no, now go double it, go triple it, go do more. You can, and you should, and you are able in all of these things. It's everything that you need in one program to be able to create your Reiki business, because you need all of these elements. You need that human to human connection. You need that inspiration to let you have permission to dream, to let your intuition speak, to know how to trust it, to release your limiting beliefs so you're not holding yourself back. And then to have the practical knowledge of, okay, now which steps do I do? How do I make an LLC? What do I do about my taxes? What's the best way to make a Canva template? All with that foundational knowledge of bringing it back to your intuition, bringing it back to this truth within you, and looking at, is this aligned? Is this enough? Is this what I'm meant to be doing right now? And being able to honor whichever answer you get, so that if the answer is no, you're not meant to do 15 Canva templates right now, but you are meant to go do a webinar, you're like, okay, I guess that's what we're doing now. And you can flow and you can find that rhythm with yourself and have this community supporting you along the way. Because again, it is a process and it does take work, and there will be questions. But if you have a space where you feel safe to come and ask them, where you feel safe to make mistakes, where you feel safe to explore and see what's possible and watch others as they do the same, you're all just continuously giving each other permission to do better, to do more, to explore, to trust, to lean into this process, and to let your intuition lead the way in your business and prove to your mind that it is possible, that it's okay to let that side of you hold things like money, like financial success, like the number of clients, like taxes, like whatever it is. Prove to your brain that your intuition is capable of doing these things, because it is. But finding that space where we can give ourselves that permission takes time, and that's what this is all about.
Yeah. So if you guys are interested in the Reiki Business Bootcamp, but you've done branding before, or if you read a money mindset book or whatever it is, know that the coursework is fantastic, but the juiciness, the support is really where the benefit comes from. So it is okay if you're like, I think I've done part of this already, but you're still not in a place where you're feeling vibrant and successful. This still is the program for you, because you're going to get a container that's going to help hold you and mentor you wherever you're at, whether your Reiki business is brand new or you've been doing it for a few years, or if you've been doing it 20 years. This is going to help you see from different angles and new ideas. And guess what? When you bring all of this group together, you guys are going to be pinging ideas off of each other. And that's such a beautiful thing to see, of going, this is what worked for me, what worked for you, or I want to try it this way. Who else has done it that way before? All of those things you're creating. I want to use the word cauldron. Maybe it's because we're heading into Halloween season, like this cauldron of like, it's this container that just allows you to have this spontaneous energy that's going to allow that divine inspiration to show up for you, with mentors, Izzy and myself, to really kind of go, ooh, have you thought about it this way? How can we tweak it a little bit more? What's going to feel really good for you? What's going to feel the most sexy, juicy energy to bring that forward? How do you want to do it? Versus this is the only black and white way to do it, must stay in the box. This is the rule of how to create your business. Because guess what? We're spiritual entrepreneurs. And as a spiritual entrepreneur, we want to invite you to lean into that intuition, to say, yes, this is what divine inspiration showed up for me. And I want to let that lead and see what happens, and invite that it can be the most prosperous way forward. And let us be your prosperity or your possibility portals. Let us be an inspiration of like, yeah, we can do it that way. And see what happens, and learn from it, and accept our mistakes, and going, what part of that did I do just because I thought I should do it that way versus I want to do it that way? And what part of that really stifled the energy of what I wanted to create because I wanted it to look like someone else's package, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And so stepping into that and giving yourself that permission, and having the support and the education and the inspiration and all of it. And so if you're curious about that, that link is down below and you can click on it. Classes start October 25th, but we will be tailoring course times and the frequency of calls to the students who join. So know that this truly is a very personal thing. Think of it more like a Reiki business mentorship. It's a boot camp. It's an intensive experience where we're going to be all in with you throughout the entirety of the program. Again, with that education, the inspiration, the community, all of it. If you have questions, let us know. We'd love to hop on a call and chat with you. If you are curious about the program, but not sure if it's right for you, we can talk about it. Send us a message, send us an email, book a call, all of the things. And anything else to add to that, Christy?
I don't think so. I think I'm just excited. Honestly, I love this. Know that if you're a graduate from one of our 6-month programs, you get half off. That it's already discounted for everyone, because this is kind of our beta test first round. Izzy and I have both taught lots of business classes, lots of business support calls, but this is the first time we're kind of bringing it into a container that, like the way we're doing it this time. And so we really want to support you right where you're at, wherever you are in the world, in your business, in your creativity, and support you. And I really believe that if you are called to Reiki, and then you're called to level 2, and you're called to share Reiki with others, you're going to benefit from this program.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you all so much for joining us today, for coming to this conversation, for saying yes to yourself, yes to your business, and getting curious about how can we stop limiting ourselves? How can we step into our power? How can we give ourselves permission to be enough just as we are, and still take that action to guide us to where our intuition wants us to be? So let us know if you have questions. Reach out to us in the Reiki Cafe Community Facebook group. And until then, thank you